In this video, I will go over how to create a sandwich in Photoshop. I use sandwich as an example because everyone, including kids, knows what a sandwich is. It's a slice of bread at the bottom, some cheese, some meat, some lettuce, whatever in the middle, and then bread on top of that. In this case, I added a lot of stuff. Here on the right side, you can see my layers. In this folder, if I click on this little arrow, it opens up and it shows what's inside that folder, which is all of this. I'm going to click it again to make this easier to see. So if I hide this folder, it hides the entire sandwich. If I hide this layer here, it says plate. That image of the plate is gone, and this red background, if I hide that, I have this white background now. I will go over how I did all of this. If I click on these eyeballs, it shows this here is like the shadowy effect that I added. I'll click on this one here. It's the colors, the ketchup, the slice of bread, and in my ideal sandwich I have ketchup, mustard, ham, bacon slices, a lot of them, lettuce, some more ketchup, and then bread. So that's my sandwich that I made. But I'm going to do this from scratch, so I'm just going to close this. I'm not going to save that, and I'm going to go to File, New. And the way I do my projects, I just go to Web. And to make it easier for the kids, but also for the computers that they may be using, I stick with 1280 web small basically, just so that the computer doesn't run slow, for example. It may run slow if the computer sucks, but that's fine. This should help with that. So the other thing is resolution. 72 DPI, or the resolution in this case, is fine. I'm just doing it 100 so it looks better on my screen. You really can't tell a difference, but basically if you're going to print something, 300 would be the number, but we're not printing anything, we don't care, we're just sticking with 72. But like I said, I will stick with 100. And then artboards, I like to actually uncheck that. Whether it's checked or unchecked is fine. In this case, I'll just leave it unchecked, and this is fine. So create, and here's my page. So I'm going to go to my folder. I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but I'm going to import all of my pictures that I was using. So here is a slice of bacon. Every single time you import something, it comes in this little X with a square sort of a thing. This is in transform mode basically, which means you can move it around. You can also stretch, squeeze, do whatever. I'm going to undo that with Control Z. I'm on the PC. Command Z on the Mac. I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm not going to make any changes. I'm just going to press Enter. Here's the other one, because I imported multiple images. It's going to do one after the other. So I'm just going to leave it as is. Press Enter. Press Enter. 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 I'm just going to keep pressing Enter, and that's it. So here are my layers, and what I'm going to do, if I click on the top one, I'm going to hold down Shift, click on the last one at the bottom, and I have them all selected, and if I want, I can click on this folder, and now they are all inside this folder. So it makes things much easier to see. So it's not necessary, but that's how you would do it. You can also just click and drag it out if you want. It's kind of weird, but if I want to click and drag down here, it's still inside this folder. You can tell, because when I hide the folder layer, it hides everything inside of it. So if I don't want it to be in this folder, I gotta click and drag it, kind of move it to the right. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The easiest way though is just move it on top. So here you see that blue line. If I let go, it's going to go back inside the folder, which already is anyways. But if I move my mouse a little bit up, there we go. I'm going to let go. And now if I hide this folder, this group, just the bread is visible, or the mustard. Oh, it's bread with mustard on it. Okay. Anyways, I'm just going to undo this. Control Z is to undo, but it's also to redo. So if I press it once, it undoes it, and if I press it again, it redoes what I did. So what I mean is, let me do this real quick. I'll make a new layer. I'll use a brush. Let me get 1, 2, 3. So if I press Control Z, or just go to Edit, Undo, use Control Z. The last thing I did was make that 3, so now the 3 is gone. So I'm going to go back to Undo, and Control Z is now Redo Brush, so it brings back the 3. So if I just undo over and over, the same thing, it hides it and then it brings it back. So how do we actually undo? Well, on Windows it's Control Alt Z, which is step. It's called step backward. Control Alt Z. On a Mac, I believe it is Command Shift Z. But it'll be called step backwards, basically. Anyways, I'm going to delete this, or I can just undo until I had my mustard in here, which is up at the top, I guess. And there you go. So after all of that talk, now I will go over this project. So, first things first, I have this white background. It would be annoying if, say, let me hide this real quick. Here's mustard on this lettuce, but I have this white background. Well, that's not going to look good in my opinion. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that white background. So, what I'm going to do is hide everything except for the first image, which is this one here, and I have a white background, but it's kind of hard to see when I have a white background to begin with. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to Image, I'm going to go to Layer, New Fill Layer, Solid Color, okay, and I'm going to select the color. Changing this isn't doing anything in here because this little circle here is actually down here where it's black. So I'm going to click somewhere up here. I'm just clicking and dragging. I'm going to then click and drag here. This blue is fine. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to move it down here. Now I don't want it to be inside this folder, so I'm going to move it out. Then I'm going to move it under here, and there we go. The way it works is whatever's up here, as in the topmost layer, this one, covers everything below that. So, because this blue was on top, it was covering everything below it, including my pictures. Now that that's done, last thing I'm going to do before I start, I'm going to lock this layer because I do not want to select that blue layer by accident. So, with that selected, I'm going to click on this lock icon. Now it's locked. Now I can't click on that blue background no matter what. I can hide it, but that's it. So, anyways, I'm going to remove this white background. So I'm going to click on this layer, and to remove it, I'm going to press W, or get this icon here, which is called the Magic Wand tool. Shortcut is W. I'm going to, one thing, all these icons that have these like tiny triangle at the edge, this corner right here, that means that if you left click and hold, you get this little box that pops up. So it has two different Magic Wand tools, or one Magic Wand tool and one quick selection tool. If I go to the brush, which is pressing B, here it is. I'm going to left click and hold, and I get these options. I'm going to stick with the normal brush tool. But anyways, for the magic wand tool, there's two of them. One is the quick selection, which I'll go over first. If I just click on this white, it gives me this selection. I can then left click and hold and just drag across, and it selects pretty much just that white background, and then I can just press delete if I want. Except I can't because I have this could not complete your request because the smart object is not directly editable, which means it is a smart object. What is a smart object? Think of it basically, if you see this icon here, it's a smart object. If you don't want it to be a smart object, and if you want to be able to delete this stuff or edit it in any way, you need to right click, rasterize layer. Now that icon is gone, and with this still selected, delete, and now I can delete it. And there you go. Now I do have this white thin edge from a white background, so I can press E on the keyboard, and using brackets I can make it go smaller, make it bigger, the size of the brush or eraser. And I'm just going to erase. If I want a straight line, I can click and hold, and then hold shift, and then move up, and it goes straight up. That's how I avoid erasing the bread, because if I don't do that, my hand isn't exactly the smoothest, or it's kind of difficult to move this in a straight line. So I just I just click and hold right here, hold shift, drag across. Doesn't matter if I move it over here, my eraser is still actually over here in a straight line basically. Anyways, so that's that. Pretty simple. I'm going to hide this layer, go on to the next one. Here is this, and I'm going to use the same tool again. I'm going to press W, which is this one right here, quick selection. I'm going to click, and I can do this if I want, except it's not working because I still have this layer selected. I need to have this one selected. Now I can do it again. So I have some selection. I'm going to deselect. The selection are basically these moving ants, whatever you want to call that. I just call it moving ants. Zooming in is just pressing Z, and here I have this magnifying glass. I can left click and drag to the left or down. Left click and hold and drag to the left, zooms out. Drag to the right, it zooms in. If you drag it up, it zooms out. Drag it down, zooms in. Whatever works for you. And then to do this, to move things around without actually moving. When I do this, I'm not moving anything in here, I'm just moving my camera. So it's kind of like, okay, here's this, now I'm looking here, 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 here. All I'm doing is I'm holding down spacebar, and then I left click and hold. But yeah, anyways, I need to deselect this, which is Control D, or go select, deselect. There you go. Anyways, I'm going to left click and hold, drag, and I'm just selecting this. And it's not a lot of work. In this case, it's not perfect. If I want to add more to this, I got to hold down Shift, and then left click and drag again. But if I delete this, let me rasterize this. It's going to actually delete part of my mustard. It's not a big deal, but let's say I want to keep my mustard. Well, let me deselect that. There's another way. The other way is to first have this selected, and then go to Select and Color Range. Color range is basically, I click somewhere in this picture, make sure you have that picture selected in your layers first, and whatever I click, is what gets highlighted here. So whatever is white is what I have selected. So if I click on this mustard, now this mustard is selected. I can hold down Shift and get more of that mustard selected, especially these gray areas. I'm just holding down Shift and I'm left clicking and holding and dragging my mouse to get more of this color, which is not just one color of yellow or orange, whatever this is, but a dark and then a lighter one. And if I click OK, now I have it selected. I'm going to deselect that. I'll do it one more time. Select that layer just to make sure. Go to Select, Color Range, and instead of the mustard, I'm just going to click on that white background, have it selected. Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to hold Shift and click in here, just in case. And then let's click OK. And now I just have the white background selected. And if I delete, I get this. So I got to right click and hold and rasterize, which is right there. I'll just do it now. So now it's rasterized, I'll delete it. There we go. It's not perfect because I still have some of this white edges. If I want to be super perfect about that, then what I can do is, I still have these lines, but that's fine. With this selected, I'm actually going to, I need to have something selected like this. Another thing I can do is just, how should I put it? Let me just do this. I'm going to remove this white, the edges. Let's say I want to be as perfect as I can be. I want to remove these white edges, but I can't because, I mean, I could use this eraser, but it's just going to be a lot of work and it's not going to be as good. So, let me move my mouse to something like, well, let me go back. What I'm going to do is I need to first select what I erased, or the edges of what I erased. The easiest way to do that is just hold Control, click on this thumbnail, and now I have the picture selected or highlighted or selected basically. It's not perfect, but this is fine. It's not a high quality picture anyways. Anyways, all I did is I left click and hold, just click on that thumbnail. I have it selected, and I'm going to go to Select, Modify, Feather. Let me actually zoom in this time. So we'll focus on this right here. Select, Modify, Feather. 1 or 2 pixels is fine. I'm going to stick with 1. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to press Delete or Backspace. And it did the opposite actually. Delete everything inside of that. Let me undo that. What I needed to do is I need to go to Select and Inverse. Now when I go to Layer, Select, Modify, Feather, I can easily just erase pixel by pixel. So now I don't have that white line. I'll do it again actually. I'll do it on a different one quickly. So here's this, and I'm just going to rasterize this. There it is. Instead of using the quick selection tool, I actually prefer using the magic wand tool. What it does, it's the exact same thing except I just click it once and it selects the entire white background, delete, and it's deleted. I'm going to undo that. I do have the option to set the strength. If I leave this at 1, this is at 1. If I delete, I get all of that. I'm going to go maybe to 22, and that's a little bit better. It's not perfect. But yeah, let's say I want to do the same thing to this one now. There's a pretty good part. I'm going to left click and hold. I'm going to hold Control, click once, left click once basically. Then I'm going to inverse my selection, which is Select, Inverse. Then I'm going to go to Select, Modify, Feather. I'll stick with 1, click OK. And then I'm just going to press Backspace multiple times until I'm happy. That's fine. Control D to deselect, or just select, deselect, and then I can just zoom out and I see that I have no more white edges, basically. And I'll do the same thing with this one. Whoops, gotta have this one selected. Rasterize, deselect, rasterize. This is another good example of using the color range. So I'm going to deselect this and go to select, color range. And I'm just going to click, left click and hold shift, left click and hold here, something like that. And now I got a good selection. The reason why I grabbed color right here too, this is white. This isn't exactly a high quality picture. So there is some of the ketchup color like bleeding over here. That's just how low quality pictures work. Obviously there's more to this ketchup here, but it didn't grab it. I'm not going to worry too much about that. That's fine. I'm just going to press delete, Control D to deselect, and I'm going to left click, hold Control, and then I'm going to left click. I'm going to go to select, select inverse, then select modify feather, click OK, and then just let me get in closer, delete, Control D. That's pretty good. It's not meant to be perfect, but it makes our job a lot easier. Right click, rasterize, W, click, deselect. You can also select multiple layers, right click and then click rasterize to do them all at once. But yeah, I'm going to click delete. I do have the shadow, and in this case I'm going to show another thing. I could use this, hold shift and then click, and I got this. So what I did was, like, using the magic wand tool, I can left click once. I don't have everything. I can hold down shift, click, and I got pretty much everything now, so I'm just going to delete that. Control D to deselect. Still have this, so I can just press E for my eraser and just erase all of this. Whoops, a little too much. That's fine. And then just to do it, I'm going to go select, inverse, select, modify feather, okay, delete a couple of times, go back, and then for my last one, here's the bacon, whoops, gotta have the layer selected, there we go. I could also do color range, but there's also white in this bacon from the shine, so it may not be a good idea. But this came out pretty good actually. I'm just holding down shift and selecting multiple pieces right here. Delete, deselect, delete, deselect. That's fine. It's not perfect. That's good. So, now that I have all of this done, I am going to put them together now. So to put them together, here's my mustard. This is my bottom slice actually. I'm going to click and drag it down there. And I'm going to hide these actually. I'm going to say right below that, or right on top of that, I want there to be ham. Then I want there to be, say, bacon. but I want there to be more bacon. I am going to hold Control and press J to duplicate that layer, or let me delete that, or I can just click and drag this layer down to this little piece of paper. That's what it's supposed to be. I'm going to let go. Now we have two bacons. One's bacon copy. I'm going to click and drag to the left. And I am moving this actually, or selecting this with this tool here. I should have actually mentioned at the beginning, but this is the move tool. That's how you select and drag stuff. So there's that. Control J one more time. Whoops, this one. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to select all three, Control J, and I want to rotate them actually. So I'm going to do, with these three selected, I'm going to hold Control, press T. On a Mac it is Command T, and this is transform mode, where I can stretch and squeeze things. I'm going to undo that. All I want to do is move my mouse to the corner. Doesn't matter which corner. But I can see my mouse is turned to this arrow that's turning kind of. I'm going to left click and drag it. And I want it to snap to the exact side. So I'm going to hold down Shift. And you can see that it's snapping. If I let go of Shift but just move my mouse, it is rotating smoothly. But while I am rotating this, I can hold down Shift and it snaps. So I'm going to let go of Shift. I'm going to let go of my mouse, let go of Shift, and I'm going to press Enter. And I still have these selected. You can see that they're all there. I'm going to click, and there's my bacon, and this is the bread, so this will be the topmost layer. I'm going to hide that. On top of that, I want there to be, I'll do some lettuce. On top of that, I want there to be some ketchup. This one. Let's do some more ketchup, so I'll put this one here. Oh, this is a different bread. Okay. I remember. Okay. I'm going to hide this one. So here's some ketchup. It's okay. And here's my bread. Oh no, there's my mustard, then there's my bread. One thing is my bread's a little too small, so I'm going to Control T, make this bigger. I kind of forgot how big my bread underneath there was, so I'm going to select all of these and hide them. Oh, guess I gotta do them one at a time. So let me actually make this one bigger. That's fine. Now I can bring all these back. And hide this. So this one here, let me bring back that, let me bring back that. So this one here was actually, let me hide everything else. Oh, that's going to be a hassle. I just want to use this picture here. I don't want to have to hide all of these one at a time. So I'm going to move this one out of the layer for now. Now I'm going to hide this layer, or group. So now I just have this visible. This was just used as ketchup that I want to use. I'm going to erase the bread, but I want to keep the ketchup, so that this ketchup would then be placed on top of this slice of bread. To do that, I need to erase the bread. So one thing is, I can't use Magic Wand tool because it's not going to be perfect. I mean, it'll get the job done, I guess, but you're still going to have to do some erasing manually, or by hand, I mean. I'm going to deselect that. So it's not perfect. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to use an eraser and erase it by hand. Problem is, if I make a mistake somewhere down the line, I would have to undo and lose all of my progress. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a mask, which I haven't gone over. To use a mask, I'm going to click on this, just to have it selected, this little square with a circle in the middle. I'm going to click on that, and I get this little blank white square, whatever. When I erase something, I get a little black little speck right there. That is the eraser that is what I am erasing. So this is kind of like putting tape over something and it hides. Why would I use this? Well, even though I've erased this, I can just use my brush to bring it all back. This is the way I work in Photoshop. I don't just erase things and that's it. I actually use a mask, and then I erase, and because I have a mask, I can always bring back something if I need to. It makes it so you can work in Photoshop and erase things without worrying about never being able to bring it back, or having progressed so far that you're afraid to undo all the work you've done. So anyways, I'm just going to erase this. I can press W, hold Shift, and then click everywhere. I can go back to my quick selection tool, but I prefer to use this just because I feel like I have more control. It's not perfect, but it gets these tricky spots for me. This is fine, it's not meant to be perfect, so I'm just going to delete that. I'm going to deselect that, and like I said, because I'm using a mask, I can always bring it back if I want. Just going to undo that, and I'm going to go over here and use my eraser. When I use my eraser, I actually click right here on this little line, or this whatever, it doesn't matter, and I have my hardness set to 75. That's usually the number I stick to. If it's a hard brush or eraser, it gives me these hard edges, very pixelized. I'm not a big fan of that. Go back to, whoops, E, click, 70, 75 is fine. And I get this. I think that's better in my opinion. But yeah, so I'm just doing this. And yeah, this is probably the most boring part of the video, but kind of go over that part. I mean, I can just keep that, it's not a big deal. But yeah, something like that. I'm not going to be too perfect about it. It was much better in the first example, but this is fine. Yeah. Anyways, so now that I have that, I'm just going to bring back my other stuff. Here is my ketchup. I'm going to Control T, make it bigger, so I have more ketchup. And in the beginning example, I had green ketchup. I'll just do it real quick. This isn't necessary, but for extra credit, or I mean, we don't do extra credit, but you know, something make it more exciting, more interesting for the kids, I guess. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have this letter selected. And right here, I have these icons. I'm just going to stick with this one right here. Circle, the yin yang circle, and go to hue saturation, and I get this. I am just going to left click and hold and just drag it, and it changes the color. Now, like I said at the beginning, whatever's on top, it affects everything below it, which is why everything's getting affected. So if I move my mouse between this hue saturation layer that I created and the ketchup that I wanted to affect, this little gap right here, this little where they both meet, I'm going to hold down Alt on Windows. I'll have to check on Mac, but if you hold down Alt, you get this little icon. See? There it is. With Alt selected, I'm going to left click once, and it moves this layer to the right a little bit, and it only applies the color to this now. Even if I hide that, it's only being applied to this ketchup layer. So if I want to change this color again, instead of clicking on this, oh, okay, yeah, click on that. I'm then going to left click and drag, and then there's that green that I had earlier. Maybe I want, well, not red. I'll just go with green. Looks like a reasonable green. There you go. And this here is also a mask for this color, which is, if I want to, if I can erase whatever that mask is, whatever I wanted. Let's say there's a specific part in this ketchup that I don't want it to be applied to. Well, if I click on this mask for the hue saturation part, I can use my eraser and just erase or click or do whatever I want. Or I can just press B again for my brush and just bring it back. But yeah. And then I also had a plate. Let me actually do that real quick. Here's my plate. Press enter. And I'm going to move that to the very bottom, or right on top of that blue background. And that plate's kind of hard to see, so I'm going to Control T, make it bigger. And I'll leave it at that. Maybe undo that, try it again, something like that. Press enter, and maybe I want these two to be inside here. There they are, and that's it.